Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II World at War with our Allied playthrough. In the last episode, we moved on to October 9th, 1942, took on China and progressing their invasion of Japan, which as of right now is going slowly. However, we're getting another front ready to be opened with another one in mind. We also took care of the Indians, planning our invasion of Spain. It was Spain, a little more, sending the Indians into the Mediterranean instead of around Africa without naval support so far, planning to just utilize all the ports we have to allow us to make one lucky push, hopefully reaching Gibraltar with naval crews and landing as soon as possible. Now, let's take on the Soviet front. A lot of things to do on the Soviet front every time. Somehow the 10th Corps over here has actually lived 71 MPPs to get that back up to max strength. That's almost 10% of the MPPs we have left over at the start of this turn. That's crazy. Think about every time we hurt something down to 9 and realize that even the AI is paying that much for these units. That's rather crazy. We have a lot of things happening up here. One thing namely is that I'm not seeing a lot of Germans up here. They're probably just like right behind. A lot of them did move away after we made our advance. We won't know until we go take a good look. We also have to reinforce the 5th tanks from 4 to 10. Wow, still expensive, by the way. The 1st mechanized here is capable of moving forward, so we will move it forward up to Königsberg, where we see to the south of that at Allenstein is a cavalry division, and on Königsberg itself is simply a garrison, albeit an entrenched garrison. It's a garrison without any actual upgrades to it. We do have an army prepared to attack the enemy army at Memel, so we'll go ahead and do that, taking 3 off of him and only removing 2 from ourselves. And this is an army only using infantry weapons level 1. We are going to swap that out for one that is using infantry weapons level 2, which does not have a prepared attack, so it's not going to be as devastating or anything. However, the 1st heavy shock tanks looks like they can deal a good bit of damage to the superior German army here. Dealing 3 damage and taking 2, not the most optimal thing, but still. This corps could do with getting off the front here, so we're going to use it nonetheless. We'll attack, dealing no damage and taking 1, unfortunately. We'll swap in this nearby 18th army and go ahead and attack with that. Wiping out the remaining German army at Memel works out pretty well for us. We'll move the 14th army forward to secure Memel, and now we'll have the 4th army go just chill out in town. A lot of these things don't need to necessarily do much, as we're going to want to get them further upgraded more than anything. Speaking of, we're also probably going to want to start moving up to Memel for our HQ, or up here. Actually, yeah, to Kaunas would probably be even better. We will take the 1st light tanks and attack the enemy garrison at Königsberg. And then we could start kind of forcing our way through there, just to get some surrounding factor. Yeah. Now, to get someone that can actually fire up here would be the ideal situation. Looks like the 11th Army can push forward up past Memel with its upgraded infantry weapons and attack the enemy garrison here, making quick work of it, in fact. Who shall we have to step on the actual city itself? Not too much in the way of options there, unfortunately, and I'd like to get some upgrades in. Sadly, that won't be easy. We'll go and send the 1st light tanks since they've already had their attack. The 1st tanks themselves can keep moving forward up. Next to, well, actually, the armored train can move up in that direction. We can also move this corps up. This corps and this army have gotten their infantry weapons. Let's send the corps up first. The enemy cavalry division here is really not in the best situation. We'll move the armored train forward as well. We'll attack with the corps first, dealing 2 damage, taking none. Now attack with the train, dealing 1 damage and taking none. The train could technically be upgraded as well. It's just so very mobile, it's hard to not use it. We'll send the HQ forward for the time being and move the armored train out to make room for anyone else that might want to go there, such as the 1st tank group, which has interesting potential results that it could get here. We'll send the second anti-tank down. That could definitely do with moving forward. We will send the Baltic fighters down to keep air cover over all of these units. We'll want to reinforce the 3rd Corps sitting here. And there's a lot of upgrades we'll want to do as well. So infantry weapons level 2 to everyone here that has not already gotten it is going to be very important to actually pushing. We don't want to use too many units that are at level 1 if we can avoid it. I'll prioritize the north since things are just going generally very well back here. Let's see, upgrade. Oh, yep, you can get an upgrade too. You cannot reinforce here, but you can get an upgrade. Well, that's fair enough. Upgrade for you as well. Oh, but I could use you in the attack. Nah, I'll focus your upgrades. Upgrades are more important to me right now. I want to spread the infantry weapons so that they can do as much damage as is humanly possible. This allows me to push an army up. I think I will push the 13th Army here up to the bridge. We once held this position, and now we have units back here again. We have tanks from Germany, unfortunately, blocking the way going any further. The road does extend through this forest, so we will go ahead and move forward the Moscow Corps. Unfortunately, the cavalry division is slightly entrenched at Brest-Litovsk. However, the entrenchment is not good enough to defend a cavalry division, so we will attack with our 16th Army, taking no damage and dealing 2, lowering the enemy entrenchment. We will, let's see, attack now with the Moscow Corps, dealing 1 damage, taking none. I think I'll risk sending the 2nd Corps forward to attack, dealing 2 damage and taking none. Damn, it's still going. These panzers could be potentially deadly, but it's nothing that we have to really worry about. So I'll take the Vladivostok Corps, which has its elite reinforcements. I'll move up to connect these roadways to help with the flow of supply in the meantime. If we actually look over here by Königsberg, the amount of things the Germans have been moving around to try to maintain every front, a lot more things appearing in the south now, not to mention we're pushing in the west. I'm seeing this north coast looking very, very undefended. So that push from the Baltics that I was hoping for quite a lot earlier on is seeming like it's actually going to be very relevant right now, as this northern push is opposed by cavalry, and who knows what behind it, but not enough, clearly, to really hold us back forever without sacrificing on the other fronts. Berlin is in sight, as is Hamburg, and Germany would very unlikely it would be to survive that, although it's mainly Italy and Japan's morale that's been faltering. I'm sure we'll see Germany's falter more and more as they get pushed back on every single front at this rate. Every single front. I'll take a rain check up here for right now, and we'll look back closer to the center of the action here. We'll reinforce the 6th Corps here. That's been getting its butt beat. We don't want it to get its butt beat anymore. That's not a fun activity. We will upgrade the Corps here at Uman. Got to get those infantry weapons spreading. Same thing with the Corps back here. This has to upgrade as well. This has no upgrades, these light tanks. It can't get very far due to the mud. Damn Ukraine and your mud. Pushing forward. Now, let's see what else we have. We have a very interesting situation down here that concerns me a little bit. There are a lot of enemies gathered in between these 2 regions, but with 2 pushes moving on them, it could be good. But it goes to show that they're leaving this region open more. And that Romanian oil with a value of up to 30 MPPs is just sitting here. And who gets it doesn't really matter. Now that Japan is on its final days, and really the rest of this is prone to fall apart, we need whoever can get it to get it. If Russia gets it, then they get more. Cool. UK won't need to send them anything. If the UK gets it, then if the UK ever has too much, we can send it to Russia via the Arctic convoys. So I don't really care who takes what, because there's no, like, continuation to this game that's in the Cold War or anything. Otherwise, I really might care. There are still a lot of upgrades to do here, namely also on our cavalry corps. Both of these will need upgrades, although only one of them can actually get an upgrade right now. We are getting close to being able to encircle a lot more of these units. I will go ahead and reinforce these mechanized units before pushing forward any more. We're not in a rush right now. We're not in a rush. We're winning, and we just need to be careful about what we're doing. I will get the elite reinforcements for the 1st Red Banner Army here, as well as the 21st Army, I feel, could also be benefited, and the 1st Guards Army. Might as well take advantage of this experience while we are not in a rush. The 3rd anti-tank back here is not actually on a railway, so I have to actually get it on a railway if I'm going to operate it to the front. So that's under wraps now, at the very least, if it wasn't already. The 1st Corps here at Kiev is kind of surrounded, and it can kind of be exploited because we do have supplies coming through this side. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to take the 43rd Army here. This is not the smartest thing, but it's a good way to make him freak out. Move it behind and fully surround the Corps at Kiev to really nerf its supply. We will then attack the Hungarian Corps here, or HQ, dealing 3 damage and taking none. Not the worst way that could have ended, that's for sure. I'm quite happy with that. We could deal some more damage, although we open ourselves up to being surrounded if we try to do more. I can open up one side of this to the south because the amount of zones of control here should stop them from really moving through it anymore. We'll take the 9th Corps and move it up to attack the Hungarian HQ as well. Oh man, if we could just get one more hit on it, that would be a dead HQ. Man, oh man, oh man. However, again, this highlights the situation where I could, right? But then this guy could just kind of like step off. Well, I don't think he could make it all the way down to Cherkasy at the very least, just due to Cherkasy being behind a lot of these zones of control. It's a very risky thing that I'm doing, but it should make them panic with their lines as they see these 2 armies getting cut off. And they might try to do some pushing, but there's not a whole lot they'll be able to do. Even if they do cut these units off, generally speaking, they will have some route of supply. So I will move this Rifle Corps forward to finish off the enemies up here. This HQ is now dead. If only I could have something actually get into this town. More than likely, they will try to secure the town, which will have to be done by one of these armies. The most damage that they could do would be as if they moved off of Kiev, went this way or this way to try to cut off that route of supply, or otherwise, and also, took the 3rd Army southeast here. I don't know how easily they can do that, and either way, quite frankly, there's not a lot of reason for them to do it. I could move this around to try to hold part of this, to be honest. Help with the zones of control, but that could leave my HQ open. I think for now, I will leave this push very exposed because we just destroyed an HQ. Those are worth like 400 MPPs. It's pretty crazy. So the value that we just got out of this push is pretty crazy. With the German lines crumbling down here, I'll take the Stalingrad Corps and use it to cut off the road leading up to this enemy German Corps here. In the meantime, let's see, I can move the cavalry forward to secure this enemy city while also finishing an encirclement of the enemy Corps here. Since the armored resistance, in terms of anti-tank weapons and such, is heaviest to the south, as is the concentration of forces, I'm going to take this mechanized unit and actually send it north to get some shots in at this enemy, let's say the Italian. Break the lines at the weakest point. 3 damage onto the Italian, 2 received. Not the best, but not the worst. We'll take this corps and move it forward to also attack the Italians, dealing 1 damage, taking no damage. This leaves this rear a little bit open, as I was mentioning, so I think I will take this corps and move it to the other side of Kiev here, get across the river. I think that should be fine. I don't think that will really go very poorly at all. I'd like to move some of the planes up, but there's only certain locations where we can necessarily afford to do that. At the very least, one of those locations could be sending this plane up to Uman. That would be a good spot. You can also reinforce the Kiev fighters and get the paratroopers just casually walking down the street in the mud. They can't move very fast at all, and we still don't have mobility researched, unfortunately. And we're still rolling out other things to our units as well. I'll take the first red fighters here and move them down to Wilno so they can base out of a town, as that seems to help fighters when they're not attached to HQs, is putting them exactly on a town. So moving the red fighters up here may not be the best. We may want them on a town instead. Right now there's no towns open. I just want them to have better air coverage of the situation here. Quite frankly, I want them to have even better coverage here. They don't have long enough range at the moment to get exactly the results that I'd want. We've pretty much accomplished everything I can with the current USSR forces, so let's go ahead and reform that special forces that we lost defending Kiev. That will cost us 128 of our remaining 255 for them, so let's go ahead and purchase that. Now let's look at reforming a corps. We have 127 remaining, 99, 104 to reform one of the 2 corps that we've lost, so I'll go ahead and pay to purchase that as well. Reforming units is very, very cheap, and so regardless of size, I would like to get any reforming done, as it will help us since we are currently winning by just having so many numbers that the enemy simply cannot keep up. The Mongolians are going to move to Ulan-Ude, I don't know how to say that really, so that they can prepare to get some upgrades and be shipped off west to the front as well. Now, let's deal with the Brits. Let's start by looking over here by Port Moresby. We'll reinforce the Kanga Special Forces and get them up to strength. The 2nd Corps here can't really do a whole lot. 0 and 0 at the very least. They can try. Didn't really do much there, but they kept the enemy entrenchment, readiness, and morale lowered, which is something. When the Special Forces get back into position, hopefully they will handle the situation even better. Looking over here by the Bay of Bengal in the Indian Ocean, we will take a look at our subs over here. We're going to want to reinforce the DEI sub that's been over here, reinforce the Vendetta destroyer that came over here, and we know for a fact that there is an Italian destroyer down here. We have no more upgrades this carrier can get, so we can put it on bomber mode, and we know it probably has a range of like 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Send it up there, and then we can go ahead and bomb it, dealing 3 damage. Go ahead and bomb it again. Another 3 damage, and we can see there's nothing directly around it to protect it. So we can then back the carrier up a little bit, probably. Yeah, just back it up a little bit for its own protection. And then for... we don't have to go too crazy for a destroyer, but I will send the Royal Sovereign Battleship forward, since the way is proven to be clear. And we will finish off that destroyer with a national morale bonus and a dead destroyer of the Italians that ventured a little too far from home. We'll send a destroyer of our own to guard that battleship. We will send around the Leander light cruiser to keep an eye on that region as well. The heavy cruisers will go form up around our carrier here. And the Perth light cruiser is going to go to the other side of this battleship and keep that safe. The Truant sub is really no longer needed up where I was going to put it. The American subs are hardly needed over here, but they should be more than enough. So the Truant sub is going to instead, actually, I'm going to send it up towards here where the Indians are going. Because if we can get over there, we can use the Truant sub as a bit of a recon to see if our HQ and everything can make the trip to the Gibraltar. It can go kind of clear the path for us. With the Indian situation figured out down here, definitely would like to start getting some more units headed up to Greece. For that purpose, I will move the 1st Heavy Artillery off of Massawa, send the Platte HQ over, as well as the Sudan Defense Force Corps, which will get sent up to Greece. Hopefully, the HQ will provide for more than just its 1 corps while it's up there. But judging by its lack of cooperation with the South African Corps, for whatever reason, I don't know why it's like this. Like, there's not even the option to attach these things. It's so weird. But, oh well. I could always send this unit up somewhere else, even, but getting the Sudanese headed up over there wouldn't be so bad. If we can even get another Sudanese corps to work better with its 1 HQ, as well as South Africans to work with their HQ, that would be great. Because they already have HQs built, and building new HQs are a pain in the ass. It's a complete pain in the ass. And so using the ones we already have by paying a little bit more for the units could definitely be worth it. But let's go look in Greece for now and take care of the amazing situation that we have here. With the Panzer, that's just, well, gonna die. Let's go ahead and attack with the 2nd Greek Corps here, dealing 5 damage and receiving none. The Athens Corps can reinforce, although its supply situation is too bad to get all the way up to snuff. The supply situation on the front right now isn't very nice due to the interruption created by this unit. We will reinforce the WDF army in the meantime. We will attack with the British Corps down here, shattering our opponent and making it so that we can, in fact, move up here. Well, not with the Greek, but the British Corps still has enough movement to move forward. We'll make way with the Greek Corps, send it over by its own HQ to allow the others to move forward. Now, we do have a third Greek Corps in very good position to perform an attack under good supply, good readiness and morale, so we will go ahead and do that, dealing 8 damage to, by the way, a rating 8 enemy HQ, for fuck's sake. That is amazing. I will then send the Rhodesian Special Forces to secure the town and attack the HQ, finishing off a German HQ and showing a very weak rear over here. Like, they're all kinds of messed up. I think it's worth then sending the Epirus army forward to the front. We're not going to really need to maintain the Metaxas at this rate. So let's push forward with the Epirus army. And, ooh, HQ or German bombers. Well, I'd love to knock out an HQ. I'd also love to knock out the bombers. The bombers are not as important. We're going to go ahead and focus dealing 5 damage to that enemy Italian HQ, of which there are 2. Once they're out of HQs, their supplies and combat capability will dwindle at the very least. That's something I look forward to seeing. We'll move the 10th Army forward up along the road. The 3rd Corps here can move pretty far because it has mobility. Although I do worry how we're going to keep up with the logistics of this. We'll need to move this HQ further forward up to Tirana or something. So we'll want to move the Athens Corps back in the meantime. Let's move the HQ up to the capital of Albania then, so the Brits can provide superior supply to their own forces up here on the front. I guess I will go ahead and send the 3rd Corps up to support the fellow Epirus army. It can't attack, but it can at least help push a front, which right now would be a nice thing. We definitely are starting to need more units up here, but our HQ situation is already kind of shitty enough as it is. The air situation here has been untenable due to the situation, but a good target for the Air Force tactical bombers would definitely be to go after the enemy ships that are showing themselves, namely very expensive ones like this battleship. But the destroyer would also be a fairly decent target. We could do more damage to the destroyer, so I think I will go for the destroyer instead, knowing that we're going to get intercepted. But we are having the Greeks fly out, who actually have good supply due to their, I guess, home turf and ability to be attached to an HQ. We did deal 3 damage to the destroyer, weakening their front there, taking a lot of air damage ourselves, unfortunately. The Hellenic fighters not actually really suffering very much at all. Hoping to improve the supply of the Desert Air Force fighters, I will send them down to Ionia, however the hell you say that. The British Corps will take a step forward as well. The Desert Field Artillery will move to a safer location, not pressed up against all these ships trying to kill it. We will move the 7th Armored Tanks forward up to the Italian lines. We find one Italian has not the best entrenchment, so we'll go ahead and attack that one with the tanks. Killing 3 and losing 2, not the best situation, but the Brits' tanks right now are not necessarily their strongest point. There are so many enemies up here, but a lot of them really shouldn't be up here. They really shouldn't. Realizing there's a couple things I kind of missed as USSR. Let's reinforce the Guards' heavy tanks down here. That would definitely be important. Now, what is... We can send the anti-tank down to go stare at the enemies here, but not actually attack, because they're so entrenched and so strong, they would just absolutely kick our asses. We do also have some mobility capability with this mechanized unit, so I think I will go ahead and send that to claim the oil field for ourselves, and then just sit there defensively, not wanting to breach enemy entrenchment, because that could be a little difficult to do. Supply on this front is going to be interesting, however, just due to the lack of a path, due to Bacau not being owned by us, but hopefully they step off of it. If they don't, at least they'll start running out of supply, and make easier targets for our tanks and etc. in the region. At the very least, we're taking a lot of towns, which are starting to provide some good supply, which can hopefully trickle down and around to where it needs to go. We'll go ahead and move the Athens Corps back another step to make sure it's in, like, really, really good supply. We'll stay on the Metaxas for now to hold our zones of control and not break our entrenchments due to the sheer mass of enemy forces that are up here. Looking at this darned destroyer or submarine over here, raiding us, which is actually not in the best condition. We'll go ahead and attack it with the Jersey Destroyer. It dives from attack, and unfortunately took no damage. We are going to continue sending this massive destroyer force down here. at regular speed since it'll be in range. Halifax might get its shipping disrupted due to the placement of it, unfortunately. However, maybe we'll convince it to run away? I don't know. We'll send the Canadians down as well, just all the Canadians, just to maintain their line for the time being. We have some reinforcements to do on the Glorious carrier. We have to get a lot of these carriers out of their fucking bomber mode. And then also do some more upgrades to their fighters to power them up and prepare them for what's to come, including the Illustrious carrier down here. We do need reinforcements now with the Formidable carrier due to what happened with it. We are going to take it out of this escort cap mode for the time being. We will go ahead and actually just naval cruise it up to Cromarty, because over here is safe enough. There's a sub here, but it's not going to do much. We can go place the sub in the North Sea, hoping to just catch any enemy ships that come up and down here. It could be a decent thing. Maybe not the best thing, but a decent thing. We could also try to place it for raiding the enemies, which at the moment, the Germans might be too stretched thin to actually respond to be honest. So you know what? Actually, let's do that. Let's send it to start raiding the Norwegian to Germany line here. The carrier's taken care of. Let's go look at Brest. Now, St. Malo is still in a very vulnerable position. We will attack with the Rupert 1st Special Forces, leading the way, dealing 5 damage, taking no damage. And then we will have the Canadian 1st Corps go ahead and finish off the enemies at St. Malo and step on it, taking it to help push our supplies. The HQ here will move up to that once it is fully secure. Actually, it's could be considered fully secure right now, to be honest, because the supply up here is definitely going to need some improvement. Yeah, let's go ahead and step forward a little bit further with the Canadian Corps, even though it cannot attack, so that we can move the Alexander HQ forward to improve the supply situation in the region, which should help project supply further, which should make everything that comes next easier. The tank could use some replacements, so I will go ahead and for right now, I will just swap it with the Special Forces so that they're further to the front. I will then also move the British 1st Corps forward from the former BEF, where it can hopefully surround Cherbourg, and then if we do end up, I guess, bombing the port in the city with the Strat bombers after we cut it off, we should be able to do some pretty good damage and isolate this enemy force. For right now, I will actually go ahead and purchase that extra Sudanese Corps. It will arrive at January 7th, so it's going to take a minute. We should be able to operate it up to Egypt and then have it join its fellow HQ and Corps in the meantime. And they can operate as a little bit of a unit, the 2 Corps in the HQ. It's cheaper to get this Corps than it is to get another British HQ, and easier to get it up there than it is to get a British HQ down to Greece. So this will be one way of reinforcing what's up there. So we're going to go ahead and purchase that. We don't really need it for the defense of Africa or anything like that, because Africa is safe. And the South Africans are still down here. We might do the same with them if we even need to. A lot of the ships on the north side still need their ASW capabilities, so I could try to help them out with that. We'll take the Triumphant here, and we can sail that around towards London to go get its upgrades. We can take the Sheffield here and send that over to Ambrose. We can take the Kent and send that to Rosyth, and take the Cumberland and send that over to Newcastle. We are going to spend on getting the British Air Force here back up to snuff to prepare it to assist the forces in France further as of next turn. Just reinforcements, but that is very expensive. We are down to 144 MPPs remaining. Since with the current plans, I am planning on attacking Vichy in here, as the Allies historically did, I will actually go ahead and start force marching, getting this Desert Recon over to Tripoli to serve as a defense for the time being, rather than sending it up to Greece, just so that when we attack Tunis, nothing sneaks past and gets to Tripoli. I don't know if this is even going to be necessary, but it's the easiest way I can set the Americans up to invade southern Italy and dominate the area with their air force, while the Indians instead push up through Madrid, and we can purchase whatever the hell we need from the Indians to allow them to continue that front all by themselves. We'll go ahead and get the South Africans here moving up to just bordering where their HQ is for the time being, to keep their supplies in the region a bit healthier. Other than that, due to how well everything's going everywhere, I don't have a lot I want to do with the remaining 144 MPPs, but I guess I can go ahead and get the forces defending Darwin up to strength 8 at the very least. We still have nothing defending Perth. I don't know if anything ever spawns there at all, but I guess assuming that it won't, we can just operate a core over there real quick. That wouldn't be too bad. Do we even have a way to operate there? Yes, we do. So we'll go operate one of the cores over to Perth. That works. It's not very necessary, but it's something to at least ensure their safety. Other than that, I guess I could get Leclerc's core into an amphibious transport. It doesn't need upgrades to actually perform an assault, because the assault itself is going to be based off the tech of amphibious warfare. All we need to do is get it there. I'll use a normal amphibious transport because that should be sufficient for what we are going to be dealing with. 5 action points. I'll get it moving already because it's not going to be that important. We could take the maritime bombers and go scouting here to make sure nothing is sneaking past us anymore. Just as a check, and what do you know? There's nothing. Alright, well, 49 MPPs. With that, I've done everything I want to do as the UK. All we have really remaining is America. We'll finish that off next time and hit and turn. But for now, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.